And we're live. My name is Tommo, and welcome to my 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix post-race Chinwag, the race report. Let's go through it. Roll intro. Have some of that. You know what? OBS has changed. It's annoying. So when I click go live on YouTube, which this is live on YouTube, so welcome to everyone in the chat. Charmander, Halita, Jerome, Jamie, Bernie, Light Blue Cloud, Tina, Ethan, Megatronus, Professor Z, Yankee, Kadir, BW, Darkman, Laureus, Mark, Joe, Bao, Molly, Kiefer, etc., etc. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for joining me live on YouTube. When you click go live, it takes a unspecified amount of time for it to actually go live. So I'm sitting there like holding my breath, like waiting to go welcome, because I want to start that straight away. And that was the longest time it's ever been. So I almost didn't make it. It used to be I'll click a button, and as soon as I clicked that button, it went live, and it was like nice and seamless. But anyway, right, regardless, you don't care about this. You're not here to listen to me complain about YouTube. You're here to listen to my thoughts on the 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix. Also, I'm doing this one a bit earlier in the day. It's 8 a.m. UK time. Typically, I do these about midday. So hopefully this is appealing to some time zones of you out there who don't typically catch the streams. So good morning to you. If you've not been, you're not a live stream viewer, you know, you might, because most of you watch these after the fact or listen to these after the fact. So good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, Jan, if it's 3 a.m., yeah, they're usually at like 7 a.m. So actually, this is a bad time for you, Jan. Sorry. 9 p.m. in New Zealand. There you go. See, all my west coast of the US, all my Australasians. Big up, man. Happy days, yeah. Well, it's midnight here in California. That's all right. That's all right. Midnight's all right. I've actually, I'm feeling good. Hannah got me this this Star. I'm not a coffee drinker typically, but I do like an iced coffee, and she's got this caramel macchiato, very bougie. Just give you this little taste test. What do we think? Ooh, yeah, that's lovely. That's very nice. Yeah, typically I don't drink coffee, but I had a good 9-hour kip last night because the night before I only got 2 hours because I did last lap. So I was trying to sleep at 7, and then I got like an hour kip, and then I got up again and played Call of Duty for like 4 hours, and then I had another like nap, and then I had to do last lap, and then I played golf yesterday as well. So it was busy, but. Anyway, why am I still not talking about the race? How have I got almost 3 minutes into this stream and I've not even talked about the race remotely in any way, shape or form? Did I get the Manuka honey? I got honey, Kiefer. I didn't get Manuka. But you know what? Yeah, because I'm still not 100%. I'm still a bit sniffly. And, but ginger, lemon, honey mixed together is actually quite nice. It was actually quite nice. But it wasn't quite as nice as the Las Vegas Grand Prix. But before we get into it, again, make sure audio only, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We've gone over 100,000 downloads on audio only, which is pretty cool. Since we started, since I started uploading these to the audio only platform. So these streams are going to be getting a lot more love next year. All right, I'm going to be putting more effort in. I'm going to add some sound effects. I'm saying all this so you guys hold me to it. Okay, I'm adding sound effects. I'm adding more ways to interact and get your thoughts and feelings, right? Because I like to think I do an all right job as is, but there's more to come. There's more to come. So make sure you check it out. Right, let's start live chat. Please give me your thoughts on a race rating for the inaugural, the very first ever, not ever, the first around the strip, Las Vegas Grand Prix. Give me some numbers, chat. Give me some numbers. I'm just talking about the Sunday. Just the Sunday. Sunday in isolation, right? I'm already seeing some numbers, so that enables me to start a poll. Race rating out of 10. And as I can see from these options, a few of you have said 10. So I can do a 10, a 9, an 8, or a 7 or lower. Now, yes, we will... Of course, we're going to touch on what happened on the Thursday, which was a bit shambolic ultimately, but I just want to look at the race in isolation for this part of the chat, okay? So what do you think of the race? Race in isolation on the Sunday. What did it deliver in terms of entertainment value for you? 7 or lower, 8, 9 or 10. What did we think? Generally, there's a bit of a consensus, and a lot of you, 47% of you said 8, and 35% of you are saying 9. And then there's a little bit giving it a 10. 4% 10, 14% 7 or lower. Because I guess when I think about this, I'm like, what didn't it have? Because we had a very compelling battle for the lead. We had a last lap overtake for P2. We had lots of moves throughout. We had that little bit of, we had a few, people coming together like George and Max. You had the kind of turn one carnage, which, ultimately I don't want to, I'd rather see people racing wheel to wheel, not crashing into each other. But the unpredictability that brings in terms of safety cars does change up the race somewhat. Obviously, Lando had his big accident. He's all good. He had precautionary checks at the hospital afterwards. That's the most important thing. But obviously, that safety car also potentially adversely affected some and certainly benefited others. Right, race rating out of 10. 7 or lower, 13%. 8, 50%. 9, 33%. 10, 3%. Well, look, sometimes I think you lot are generous. Sometimes I think you lot are very generous. We've disagreed on here a few times. But for me, this was a 9 out of 10 race. I've got to say, I was highly entertained. I was highly entertained by the 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix. I'm very, very satisfied with that one. And you know what? I think given the disappointment that was Miami, and we had all a very similar, well, not similar to Miami in terms of the build-up, just more for Vegas, because Vegas is, sorry Miami, but Vegas is more high profile, and Vegas has kind of stole your thunder a little bit here. And yeah, if you ask me today, my almost dream 3 US Grand Prix calendar, it's certainly got Cota on it, and it's probably got Miami on it. Not Miami. It's probably got Vegas on it as well. And Miami is certainly taking a sidestep to be replaced by maybe a Laguna Seca if it was made grade 1 or A or whatever it is. That was an unreal race. That was quality. Top to toe. You had qualifying giving us, Lewis, Checo, both McLarens. Obviously, we didn't really get to see much of Lando, but Oscar was showing that car clearly had pace. And given the tyre graining struggles that a lot of people have had, I think Lando would have managed that race well. It's just a shame he had the crash when he did. And yeah, that scrap at the front was like super interesting. Max did win the race in the end, but I said this when we were doing last lap, and I've said this many a time on this channel before. I don't mind the same driver winning all the time, as long as it's a competitive scrap. Max has won, how many races is that he's won this year? He's won all but 3, hasn't he? So 18 he's won this year, because I've only had 21 races. Yeah, he's won 18 this year. But if all 18 were fought like this would not be I know some people say it's a bit boring this year, right? And I get it. But my goodness, what a race. What an absolute event. And you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad, because the sport has put a lot into this. It's invested a lot. And the cynicism around it at the start is very understandable, very justified. And look, I've said this, I want to give this a chance. It was a massive false start on Thursday. But ultimately, and there's lawsuits knocking about with that as well, which is not good. I think the way the fans were treated was pretty appalling. But we're here. We got a banging race, and that is ultimately long term what this will be remembered for first and foremost. And thank you to that man, that man just there, that man, Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, thank you. Thank you, my friend. He turned up yesterday in a big way. Big way. But here are the race results for the 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix. Max Verstappen wins ahead of Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, Esteban Ocon P4, Stroll P5. Second race in the row, Stroll P5. Carlos Sainz P6, second race in the row, Carlos Sainz P6 as well. Lewis, George 7 and 8, Fernando 9, and then Oscar Piastri fastest lap P10. 2 points for him. Gasly, Albon, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Joe Sargent, Bottas, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg. Roll out the rest of the finishers. Well, Hulkenberg and Tsunoda had issues, didn't they, right at the end? So they were technically finishers, Tsunoda and Hulkenberg, because they completed enough of the race, but they didn't actually get the checkered flag in the end. And yeah, a missed opportunity for McLaren, for sure, because given the pace Oscar was showing, if they hadn't bozoed qualifying, then I think McLaren left a lot of points on the table, actually, to be fair. A lot of points on the table. Imagine if that Leclerc final lap overtake was for the lead. Yeah, I mean, if that was for the lead, it would have been a 10 out of 10. For sure. If that was for the lead, absolutely. That would have been box office, as my good friend Aldous would say. So that's the race result. Driver standings. How do we look going into the final race of the season? Max extends his lead, of course, as he does. Sergio, that gap to Lewis is done now. It's more than the gap that Lewis can close. It's, 41 points between Checo and Lewis. So Perez has P2 finally secured. Should he have done it before the penultimate race of the season? You'd like to think so, but there you go. Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, same number of points. Lando, just 5 behind them. They're both on 200. He's on 195. And even Leclerc is only 12 points behind Sainz and Alonso as well, on 188. So P4, that's purely bragging rights. There's no prize money attached to finishing higher in the driver standings. The only one that matters from a driver standing point of view is if you win or not. But yeah, you're gonna have people, giving meaning to your points gap between your teammates going forward. I guess but I mean, it doesn't actually really matter. Towards the back, the only real big jump up in points was Ocon relative to Gasly. Is only 4 behind Gasly now because he scored 12. Gasly scored nil points. Otherwise, no change at the back. Williams was starting well. They had a very good qualifying, but not too surprisingly, the race was not to be. The race was not to be. Thank you, Iconics. I don't know. I wish my beard was a bit darker. I wish it contrasted my face a bit more. Make it look a bit nicer, but there you go. Anyway, so that's the driver standings. The constructor standings, which is where all positions do matter. Interesting. So Ferrari are only 4 points behind Mercedes. And a certain lanky Mercedes driver left points on the table this weekend that could prove costly to Mercedes in the constructors. And thank you, Oscar, for the 50,000 IDR. The track may look bad, but the quality of racing was damn good. That's what matters, Oscar. It's not. It might look like Spider Pig, and that's fine. Spider Pig's quality, Spider Pig is quality. No, to be fair, both Mercedes and Lewis had a poor qualifying as well, didn't they? So that kind of put him on the back foot. But that Mercedes clearly had pace this weekend. That McLaren clearly had pace this weekend. Yet they came out in, what were their finishing positions? 7, 8, and 10, and DNF, which given their pace, disappointing. But yes, in the constructors, Red Bull extend their gap, of course. 392 Mercedes, 388 Ferrari. McLaren now have something to think about with Aston Martin maybe coming back a bit here. Again, 2 Stroll P5s in a row. Fernando's still getting in the points as well with P9. A couple of points on the board. That's 11 points between Aston and McLaren. So that's maybe the momentum slightly switched there. Obviously, Alpine have nothing to fight for. Good points for them. And then, Williams still 7 points ahead of AlphaTauri. So it would take a massive Abu Dhabi performance from AlphaTauri to get that P7. It's worth them throwing the kitchen sink at it because you've got to think that probably a track like Abu Dhabi will suit the AlphaTauri a bit better, probably, but it's very hard to call. It's going to be a higher downforce setup, and in that instance, then Williams, I think, really does cash in their straight line advantage. When everyone's taking wing off, they don't seem to like. Williams didn't excel in qualifying on Saturday/Friday, whenever it was, because of their straight line speed. It was more because they could fire the tyres up quick. The straight line speed helps, of course, but it wasn't crazy faster than everyone else. You know? Can't believe the season ends next weekend. I know. 3 a.m. in Toronto, big up. Thank you for coming along. I'd love to go to Toronto. Although, is it the Toronto accent that's like really bad? Sorry, I know that. I don't know. Yeah, that's what the internet says. That the Toronto accent's awful. What's the worst British accent actually? And don't tell me it's mine. Okay, I know mine's terrible. What's the word? I like to think if mine was that bad, you lot wouldn't listen to me for as long as you do. Think of the hours of me talking that exists on the internet. Hours. God. Why you put yourself through it? Nah, Cockney's not that bad. Come on. Scout. There's a few. I like Scouse. Scouse is endearing. But Birmingham. Nah, but Birmingham's alright. Bromley or Manchester. Yeah, man. You know what? I prefer Bromley to Mancunian. I prefer. Yeah. Sorry, my Mancunian followers. I'm can't say I'm keen on. Geordie's kind of endearing as well. Mancunian, I just can't. Don't get along with it. Essex. But no one's saying like West Country. West Country does kind of. Welsh is a pleasant accent. Sorry, Harry. Sorry, I apologise, mate. I apologise. I love a bit of Scottish as well. You know, I like a good accent. But yeah, Toronto is pretty bad. Sorry. Right, so that's how the constructors sit with one race to go. Anyway. Bangers and clangers. What you're all here for, okay? Tommo's bangers and clangers. Starting with mine, going to yours. I put the poll out last night on Twitter at TwommoF1 because we only take W's on Twitter and Twitter Tommo. It will always be called Twitter. I will always call it Twitter. I'm starting to see people migrate to calling it X, and I don't like that. So I'm going against that. Okay, we're going to call it Twitter. And also on YouTube community, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you're here watching along on YouTube. If you're audio only, then make sure you either follow me on YouTube or Twitter to get involved with the polls, so you can have your opinion part of the collective, part of the mass. Okay. So, bangers and clangers, starting with the banger drive. Who had the bangingest drive? Give me some names, chat. Okay. I like to think I know the names you will be coming up with here. Give me the names who had the best drive this weekend. What I need to do also next year is make it more clear that when I'm talking about bangers and clangers, I'm including the entire weekend. But then when I'm doing race rating, I'm only thinking about the race. I need to just kind of formalise all that a bit more so it's a bit more clear. Ocon, Stroll. Don't think there's Norris. Leclerc, they're the main. Oscar, yeah, it's a shame for him about the tyre rule, but you know, if it had been on the medium, he wouldn't have been as competitive as he was, because that's the tyre he kind of needed to be on. That's kind of what happened to Bottas, didn't he? Because he started on the hards and then had to pit for the mediums and try and take the mediums to the end, which did not work. Checo as well, Sargent, good quality, but it's Leclerc, isn't it? Come on, it's Leclerc. Look, he's I really need to see his Q2 lap, because he was saying that his Q2 lap was the best lap he's ever done in F1, and Charles done some very, very impressive laps in F1. So I need to see that. Okay, I need to see that lap. I haven't looked, to be fair. I've been too busy sleeping. But Charles Leclerc, come on. What a performance from him. And he did everything he could. At the end of the day, that safety car timing did end up giving Max the opportunity to win that race, where I think Charles would have won it otherwise. And incredible drive. He made that one mistake, that little lock-up that allowed Perez back through. But then I don't think he was going to be catching Max anyway. And he more than atoned for that error with that final lap overtake. Oh, phenomenal. Leclerc it was all calculated, Mark. He just let Checo buy because he knew Leclerc just locked up on purpose because he wanted to let Perez buy it and then do it on the final lap because the Ferrari sponsors would be really happy. I mean, they should be happy, the Ferrari sponsors, because that car looked phenomenal. That livery, honestly, that needs to be their livery. I remember, I don't think it was this season. I think it was maybe last season when I did my livery redesigns at the start of the year, and I did a white and red Ferrari, and it was the best received one. I think they need to do a white and red Ferrari. I really do, like as their main standalone livery. And I like to think they could as well, because I know that with next year, these cars, and we're already seeing it, they're less sensitive to the weight of well, they're not using paint so much anymore. It's more these super thin vinyl that weighs barely anything. So I like to think we'll start to see a bit more colour on the cars next year, and a white and red Ferrari. That's what I'll go for. And, you know, white's great for sponsors because the logo stands out more on a white base because you've got that contrast. Come on. Is it better than Monza livery? Yes. Oh, yeah, this is my favourite Ferrari Special Edition livery, I think, that they've done in recent memory anyway. But regardless, that's besides the point. Leclerc, unreal drive, Charles, showing the true Chad that he is. Charles Leclerc, what a man. Can't say I'm a bit envious, I'll be honest. I mean, he's very handsome. He can speak Italian and French and English and probably other languages. He drives for Ferrari. That is a blessing and a curse. But, I mean, what a man. What a human being that is, honestly. A banger drive for me, Charles Leclerc. Okay. But what about yours? Well, 2,093 of you voted. 2,093. It's a lot of people. A lot of opinions on this Las Vegas Grand Prix. And rightly so. Because it was and he has a single on Spotify. That's true, Elif. That's very true. It's true. He's a piano master. He's good with his hands. Hold. Your bangingest drive of the 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix is Charles Leclerc, of course it is. 37% of the vote for Charles, 23% for Lance Stroll. Credit where it's due. 19% Ocon, 6% Max Verstappen. Lance Stroll, obviously, poor qualifying, out in Q1, but capitalised turn one shenanigans caused in part by his teammate, in significant part by his teammate. Typically, it's the other way around, isn't it, to be honest? But Alonso, not good off the start, definitely seriously misjudged his braking point into turn one. And Lance delivered the goods, second P5 in a row. Good for him. Good for him. We'll talk more in specific about these drivers as we go team by team later. And there was the oil on track, Vabav. That is a good point. Now, was that wholly responsible for the Alonso-Sainz incidents? It's impossible to say for sure. It's quite a convenient explanation for these drivers. Maybe it's an accurate one as well. Hard to say for sure. Ocon, 19% of the vote. Very similar race, I guess, to Lance as well for him. Starting at the back, out in Q1 with his little scrap with Max, which I'm sure we'll get into as well. And recovered through to P4 in the end. Kept the graining away from his tyres, which his teammate couldn't, for some reason, wasn't able to do. Finished P4 in the end, and then Max Verstappen, 6% of the vote, won the race at the end of the day. So, fair enough. Max could have finished 90 seconds up the road and still not been banged into that turn one move. Clearly intentional. I don't know if I'd agree with that, Sam. I think I'm going to give Max the benefit of the doubt in that turn one. He didn't seem particularly aggrieved that he got a penalty for it. And I think that speaks volumes. And I mean, for me, that was absolute slam dunk clear. Give the position back / I'm surprised Red Bull didn't tell him to give the position back. somewhat. But then when you don't have consistent stewardship, then Red Bull also, I kind of can't blame them, because they're like, well, we might get away with it. If we don't have the same stewards all the time, then there's a chance they might just let us get away with this one. They didn't this time. Naughty, yes. Intentional, no. Yeah, I think the margins were too fine for that to be calculated, given the lack of grip. But look, these are meant to be 20 of the best drivers in the world, and they've got to manage their way through low grip. You see it in all forms of motorsport with low grip. F1's got it good compared to some in terms of grip, in terms of handling characteristics. But there you go. So yeah, Charles Leclerc wins, banger drive, 37%. Stroll 23, Ocon 19, Verstappen 6. Okay. Clanger drive next. And before we get into that, thank you, Jorge, for the 10 Aussie dollars. Hey, Tommo, England won the moral World Cup in the cricket. Look, the thing is, you banter me all you like about cricket, because I don't watch cricket. So, no, hey, Australia actually won the World Cup. They did by 6 wickets against the undefeated India cricket team. Also a great race. Yeah, big up everyone who's all the Aussies out there. I know Oscar was giving Karun a bit of Twitter banter about that before the game anyway, and Piastri came out on top. Sorry, Karun, hold that. No, I look. This is the beauty of sport. You know, some people feel the way I feel about cricket, about Formula One. You know, it's just cars going in corners. It's fun. I played golf yesterday. I know it's a very divisive sport. Some people love it. Some people hate it. And I've got the bug. I'll be honest. I've got the bug. Just digging in there. It's such a frustrating game. Anyway, right. Netflix Cup. One day I'll be on there. All right. Bookmark it. Right. Cool. So, Clanger drive. Who had the clangingest drive this weekend? Give me some names, chat. Who's coming to mind? Who had a bit of a stinker? Bottas would be harsh, because he copped damage turn 1, didn't he, from a good quality position. Norris or Russell? Albon, how dare you? Russell, Alonso, Logan, Norris, Lando, Alonso, Yuki. Yeah, Yuki's weekend terrible in every possible metric. Okay, I've gone with Lando. Look, okay, however you feel about the crash, ultimately, he dropped it. No one else did through that section. It's low grip. It's a high-speed corner. It was a scary accident. I'm glad he's all right, first and foremost. But at the end of the day, like, no one else dropped it through there. He was the only one. You know, did he take a... It's driver error. It ultimately is driver error. In the same way that, you know, Alonso into turn 1, hitting people, Max pushing, Leclerc wide, they were driver error. This was driver error. And it ended his race immediately from a position where, you know, there's the opportunity here to score big points, to be honest. Did I predict Lando to win? No, Dan, what do you mean, Dan? No, Dan, what are you talking about? No, I didn't predict Lando to win the 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix. There's absolutely no chance that happened. Guaranteed that never happened. I'm almost certain that never happened. Yeah, look, it's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with a little, a cheeky little gaslight, right? Every now and then, Toby. Yeah, look, it wasn't Lando's weekend. Poor qualifying, which wasn't so much on him. I think the team let both him and Oscar down. They got a bit too cocky with tyre allocation and should have sent him out on fresh ones, but they didn't. And yeah, he dropped it and ended his race immediately. So kind of has to be him for me. Lando's crash was caused by a bump in the road. Yeah, and look, that's the track underneath you. No one else lost the car on that bump. You know, were people avoiding that bump? Were people, you know, maybe it was, you know, the McLaren was particularly susceptible to that bump. He did almost take out Piastri as well. I was proper, like, when that car was coming through, in the replay, he was not far off hitting Oscar, which would have been an even bigger L. But there you go. Yeah, not great from Lando, unfortunately. Shame. What could have been? As for your clanger, who did you vote for? You also went for Lando, 32% of the vote. 14% for George Russell, who drove into the side of Max Verstappen. And that is going to be the subject of my video this week, because George Russell keeps making mistakes. 9% Fernando Alonso into turn 1, just did what similar, not really similar. When Stroll in the Aston took out everyone in Hungary 21 into turn 1. Well, took out Charles, he did. It was him and Valtteri, wasn't it? But Alonso just launched it up the inside, couldn't get it stopped. Bosh. And then Yuki Tsunoda. Now, obviously, how much of it was Yuki's fault? It's difficult to say, but at the end of the day, he qualified right at the back and went nowhere. He had the soft tyres on, but like just couldn't get them fired up. It was really weird. Like on the restarts, you'd expect the soft runners, the softer runners, and this was the softest allocation at Pirelli's this weekend, the C3 to 5. And yeah, man, Yuki was absolutely nowhere. Neither was Ricciardo, but also Ricciardo caught damage. So yeah, that AlphaTauri just did not work this weekend, which is pretty brazy. But there you go. Right, cool. So banger clanger, we've agreed. We're in agreement so far. Okay, doesn't always is rare, but that's good. Diversity of opinion is the spice of life. Okay, it's the spice of life. Banger team. Who brought the bangingest team performance this weekend? 2023 Vegas Grand Prix. Ferrari. Such a shame that Carlos Sainz was not able to start P2. This could have been a very different race. Look, listen, the race was great. The race was super entertainment. But if Carlos was up there to lend a hand, the thing is, like, Charles was fighting with a hand behind your back because he had 2 Red Bulls up there, which, this is the way it should be. And this kind of track suits Checo's style to a T. So I wasn't surprised that he was up there. Yes, he benefited from the safety cars, but at the end of the day, this does suit his style. And he was delivering pretty good lap times, Checo, getting up there, taking the advantages that the safety cars gave him and giving Charles Leclerc something to think about. And Max was tying Charles along at the end. Max was tying Checo along at the end, and having that flexibility amongst you. This is why it's important next season that if Checo is in that Red Bull, that he is significantly closer to Max than he has been this year, because Max might need that support to bring him the wins, bring him the points, assuming that everyone else gets closer. We don't know. Maybe they won't. I bloody hope they will. And yeah, the penalty kind of stunk. The way, so actually this is a good poll time, right? Would giving Sainz, how shall I word this? Yeah, was Carlos Sainz penalty fair in quotation marks? I want to do yes and no and a kind of option. I want to do a 3-pronged perspective on it. Now, yeah, I see that there's been a lot of discourse around blaming the teams for. From my understanding, like, the teams are going to have an opinion, and the teams are going to look after themselves, but they don't have a say in whether or not Ferrari got a penalty here, right? They don't actually have a say. So yeah, Mercedes and Toto probably was like, yeah, you deserve the penalty, like, should have the penalty, because of course from they're fighting for P2 in the constructors, so of course Toto's going to say what. I wouldn't expect him to not say otherwise, And yeah, in terms of paying for the damage, obviously that should be an invoice sent directly to Stefano Domenicali's desk in the F1 London offices, because yeah, that's pretty crazy. Was the Carlos Sainz penalty fair? 9% of you are saying yes, 24% of you are saying kind of, 67% no. So obviously the argument for the penalty is that if you give Carlos all this new stuff for free, so new PU, new, energy store, all that stuff that typically you have to serve penalties for to take, then that would give him an unfair advantage, especially in the penultimate race of the year, where loads of teams, like I'm surprised no PUs went pop, to be fair. We obviously had Hulkenberg and Tsunoda with issues, but, especially at the end of the season when people are, they're not going to want to use a new power unit. They're going to want to try and just get through the old PU and get the most out of it before the end of the year when they have to chuck it anyway. That would give Sainz an unfair advantage. That's the argument for the penalty. And I get that, I understand that. But for me, if we're talking in the grand scheme of fairness, okay, what was unfair was that the drain cover came up and ripped a hole in the bottom of Carlos Sainz's car. Now, if for this, which is a bit of a freak incident, which doesn't typically happen very often, we've had these things in the past when the track itself, for a non-sporting reason, because also you can say, oh well, what if someone drives into you and takes you out and it's not your fault? Yeah, but you kind of you have to expect that in sport. You can't expect the concessions there, even if you get taken out through no fault of your own. But this damage had nothing to do with the sport, the event. It was the track not being prepared appropriately, of course. So in that instance, where the Ferrari mechanics had to work like crazy to get the car ready, which they did for FP2, which was very impressive. You know what? I think that's very unlucky and very unfair and has cost a lot of time and effort, and there was no guarantee they'd get the car out for FP2. So I'm quite satisfied with the idea of then maybe making up for that with a free power unit change or free changes to whatever components were completely obliterated. And I think that balances out, personally. And yeah, the teams might be crying about it, but that's how I would look at an incident like this. When it's clearly not a sporting thing that's caused the issue, caused the damage, I think to repay Ferrari for the effort they've had to go into to get it all the car rebuilt and all that, they deserve a bit of unfair, positive treatment relative to the race. That's my... And look, again, having the hard, fast, kind of black and white rules is an ideal that we will never reach. We will never ultimately achieve that, and we shouldn't really try to, because I think the sport is human. Like we see a lot with the conversation around kind of VAR and all that in football, and the argument towards having flawed human referees back and taking responsibility for decisions. And a lot of incidents, we can look at, there's countless incidents in Formula One. We almost get one every weekend where there's not a unanimous agreement on who was at fault or blah, blah, blah. So officiating the sport in a black and white manner is not realistic. We can use these rules to guide, and this is again why consistent stewardship is so important for me. But yeah, I mean that's my perspective for it. And yeah, I mean, it could have, again, imagine if that could quite easily, you replay that incident with a few millimeters different each time. There are certainly eventualities where Carlos Sainz is seriously injured by that. And potentially, I don't know, like if it chucks something into the air and blah, blah, blah. Like that could have been it was a freak accident with, monetary damage to the car and not too much else. I know Carlos was a bit, I heard a few different people saying different things about what Carlos said post. I can't confirm or deny exactly what Carlos was saying post because I've not kind of seen, but he was clearly like shook up by it, understandably, right? And we've had Russell had this at Baku, didn't he, back in the Williams and blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean that's my perspective. That's why it was. I think it would be fair to give him a bit of an unfair advantage for the race, to repay for the FIA messing up, right? Because at the end of the day, like the FIA are very quick and keen to throw promoters under the bus, if and when they deem fit, and rightly so sometimes. I mean, when in Brazil, like literally last weekend, when you had fans climbing over the barriers and getting in before the race had even finished, like that was bad, and I think that can't be allowed to happen again. And oh my God, there's that one fan who's over and screaming at the steward, mate. That guy's never had a kick in his life, and he needs one bad. Because honestly, that was embarrassing. But yeah, it is a tricky one. Thank you, Sava, for the 250 RSD. Couldn't you argue that bumps and walls are track characteristics that cause damages? It would open a can of worms for future situations. It's a good point, Sava. It's a good point. The walls only cause damage when the drivers drive into them. So I wouldn't agree with the point on walls. Bumps. The thing is, I think that obviously this was egregious because it was very clear, massive damage that just happened, boom, like that. With bumps, I would say. I completely get your point, Sava, because I think that you have to draw a line somewhere. I think this one was very clear, like the track was incorrectly prepared and it caused huge damage, and I think it would have been fair to give Carlos a free power unit, change, whatever. But at the same time, yes, with stuff like that, with bumps and scrapes, that's what FP1's for, to set your car up, to account for the bumps. Tracks aren't like, I'm not being funny, we're not racing at Sebring. Like, let's put F1 cars around Sebring and then see them complain about bumps there. Look, obviously, a ground effects F1 car has very different needs, I guess. I guess, yeah, maybe that is a point. Ground effects F1 cars, where the handling, and this is probably why, this is almost certainly why Lando lost it in such a big way. Because the aero is generated the lower the car is to the ground. And once that seal is broken, you all of a sudden lose a lot of downforce. So then you're expecting a certain level of downforce and suddenly it's gone. Versus most other motorsports, non-open wheelers, which aren't aero sensitive as much as they are mechanical grip. So that does make things a little bit different. 70% of you have said no, not fair. 22 kind of 8 yes. Thank you, Clorox, for the 10 Aussie. The penalty was fair, in my opinion. I'd be fuming if another team got a free new engine without a grid drop. If it was a close season, it could make the difference to a championship. Yeah, look, that's the perspective of another team, for sure. And but then also you can equally argue that the grid drop penalty, it wouldn't be fair on the others. Sorry, it wouldn't be fair on the others, but also it wasn't fair on Ferrari. In this instant, the decision that was made was the fairer decision by the other teams than it was by Ferrari. But my counter to that is that because of how, this is it is an outlier. We don't get these very often where the track itself, a drain cover comes up. I mean, I can't think of too many other things that a track could do. I don't know, maybe say, I don't know, part of a bridge going over a track, not a bridge, like a advertising thing above a track kind of fell down and then an F1 car hit it and it caused loads of damage. Like that, I feel like I can be happy with the idea, neutrally looking at it and being like, you know what, you've had this freak incident happen that was through no fault of your own, through no sporting reason. we're gonna give you something like a fresh power unit or whatever to make up for that. Sorry, other teams, we messed up, and maybe that puts a bit more pressure from the teams as well to make sure that the FIA are getting the tracks in the right place at the right time. There's not a right answer. I think there's not one where everyone's happy. But it was just incredibly. But I think the priority of fairness should go to the team that was affected by the ridiculously unfair incident that shouldn't have happened in the first place. They deserve the priority for me. Ferrari deserved the priority of fairness over the other 9 teams on the grid. I guess that's where I'm thinking. And yeah, bumps are a bit different to manhole covers. Walls only cause damage when you drive into them. Yeah, they do. The walls don't jump out on you. Oh, Aramco, Rolex. If anyone needs a new engine, they'll just find a drain. No, because if the drain covers down properly, but also you can't I don't think it's like a predictable thing. Like, I'm going to drive over all the drain covers. Just keep driving over the drain covers, Carlos, until you have the drain cover go through your chassis and potentially seriously hurt you. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. I got big sidetracked there. That was a good little conversation. That was a good little. There's multiple points, just like most things in life. Typically, when there's a debate, if someone's falling firmly, extremely on one side, they're probably not acknowledging the perspectives from the other side. But there you go. A little bit of common sense. Sometimes I don't think common sense is that common. Anyway, right. My banger team was Ferrari. Your banger team was Red Bull. 40% of the vote. Almost got a 1-2. Both cars on the podium. I get it. With qualifying, did Checo kind of let himself down, or did the team let Checo down a bit? Hard to say. I think at the end of the day, he didn't get the lap in that he needed to. Expected a bit more from Checo in qualifying. But also, strategically, I mean, it kind of fell into Red Bull's laps for Checo at the end of the day. They hard to say they calculated that, the timing of the safety car and all that kind of sorted Checo right out. But yeah, they gave Max the opportunity to win, and he did. So 1-3, fair enough. 40% Red Bull. 27% gave it to Ferrari. 17% to Williams. Yeah, shame. Given qualifying, great qualifying, but that car just couldn't hold on to those tyres. 11% Alpine. Alpine's in very, very, very strange result this weekend for Alpine. Very weird. Very Alpine. Incredibly Alpine. Quintessential Alpine, as I put it on Twitter. Quintessential Alpine. What a word that is. And finally, Clanger team. It's AlphaTauri. Of course, it must be AlphaTauri for me. Tsunoda was nowhere. Ricardo got out of Q1. But he had damage. Tsunoda, car broke. No pace. Even on the softs. Terrible. Yeah. Not a good day for the Faenza-based team. Thank you, Lord Usyk, by the way, for the 50cc, okay? I must say, seeing my boy Chuck fight Red Bulls almost reminded me of the time Max was fighting those OP Mercs in 2020. Was overall a decent race. You know what, Usyk? That's a good little reference there. Definitely. When Max was kind of fighting on his own. He did kind of do it for a lot of that season. That's the shame, innit? Because you know that Ferrari aren't going to be anywhere near as competitive as they were this weekend in Abu Dhabi. They're just not. But yeah, Charles was giving good Max energy from 2020 for sure. But no, AlphaTauri, bad AlphaTauri, Beta Tauri. That was a Beta Tauri performance, or an awful Tauri performance. That's my clanger. Yours is also awful Tauri. 27% of the vote, 23% of the vote to McLaren. Which, you know what, like, fair. It was between McLaren and AlphaTauri for me because McLaren definitely messed up qualifying, which ended up, you know, the knock-on effect of that. They also, Oscar had to pit again. Now, they were kind of, their hands were a bit tired. Starting on the hards was risky. It was risky because the likelihood of a safety car around here was always going to be pretty high. And starting on the hards meant that they had to go to, well, he went on another set of hards, was flying, but then you've used 2 sets of hards. You know, if Oscar had stuck mediums on at the start, he could have been P4. P4 for sure. So, yeah, that was a bit tough. Williams, yeah, I mean, points are won on Sunday, not Saturday, so this qualifying performance will be long forgotten, unfortunately for Williams. 11% Mercedes, yeah, let themselves down. McLaren and Mercedes in particular, didn't they? But there we go. There's your bangers and clangers. Leclerc, Lando, Red Bull, AlphaTauri. Mine, Leclerc, Lando, Ferrari, AlphaTauri. So only one different. I went Ferrari, you went Red Bull. Fair enough. Fair enough. McLaren replicating Ferrari's culture of excellence this weekend. Right. Okay, team by team, starting with Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo. In fact, actually, let's get the let's go back through all the graphics so we can just reference the race result quite quickly. I'm going to click through all of these race results here. Bosch, and then Alfa Romeo. Yeah, so they finished P15 and P17. Bottas, great quali, but cop damage at the start, didn't he? He kind of got sandwiched. There was nothing really he could do because he had Fernando in front, and then was it Sainz hit Hamilton into Bottas? Was it? I can't actually remember. But either way, yeah, because Hamilton started behind Bottas. Either way, their livery, I thought it looked awful on the track. To be honest, it looked brown. The car looked brown. I don't want to see a brown F1 car. Sorry, that's just no. That is reserved for caramel macchiatos. This is actually quite this color on an F1 car would be nice. Would be nice, you know. This color on an F1 car would be really nice, like an orangey, dark burnt orange brown. But it's not an F1 car color. I'm sorry, it's not. And yeah, Joe's really been disappointing. I'll be honest. Like first half of the season, I know in my my mid-season report, I was like they've been close. Bottas has had the edge, but they've been close. But Joe's not been that close this second half of the season. Bit concerning for Alfa Romeo. He needs to turn it on. But the thing is, the car's rubbish as well, so it's hard to be too harsh. But yeah, Bottas had diffuser damage, so couldn't really do much from the back. Not much more to say on them. AlphaTauri, already said it. Ricciardo also had damage. Yuki had to stop with a gearbox issue. Just awful Tauri. I'm not going to waste any more time talking about them. We're going to do this in alphabetical. So now we're going to talk about Alpine. Now Alpine. Right. I've got a question. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this in a form of poll because I'm interested. So, where does the burden of managing graining lie? So, is it on driver? Is it on team? Or is it equal? Now, I'm asking this question for a reason. So, actually, Ted on his notebook gave a really good description of how graining works. So you get the little grains of little marbles almost of rubber that form on the tyre, and when they stick to the tyre and on the tyre, that affects the contact patch and gives you less grip. But if you can get through that graining and make the tyre nice and smooth again, then you're good. So it's not the tyres that have gone. It's just you've got loads of bits on the tyre to stop him gripping up properly. Now, the reason I asked this question is we saw a lot of drivers struggle with graining. We saw both Williams we saw Hulkenberg post-race was talking about how he was having to manage the pace because of the graining, to stop the graining. I can't remember the exact quote he said, but if you listen to Nico's post-race chat where they chat to all the drivers after the race on the F1 YouTube channel, yeah, he was like, I was having to manage the pace to prevent the graining. Ocon drove a one-stop, had a very different race to Pierre. Pierre started right at the front, Ocon started right at the back, and Ocon didn't get any graining all race. Gasly got horrific graining and dropped like a stone. So my question is, where is the burden of managing the graining, right? Now, in the poll, you've done 45% of you said driver, 49% of you said it's equal, and only 6% of you said it's majority on the team. Now, honestly, I don't know. I guess that's why I'm asking, because I don't know, okay? All I can think is that at the start, Gasly amazing qualifying, did a great job. He was all over the back of George Russell at the start. Did he / Alpine get a bit carried away at the start, pushing a bit too hard? That created the graining, didn't manage the race. The thing is, right, I can't blame Pierre for going for it. They've got nothing to fight for this year, Alpine. If you're starting at the front and you've got an opportunity to have a go at George Russell and potentially get up into stay in the top 5, then I can't begrudge him for going for it. Ultimately, Alpine and Pierre could have managed that race differently and finished a lot higher up. But because he seemed to push too hard at the start, that generated the graining that then caused the issues. I want to say at the start, I mean the start of his stint on whatever tyre it was that he was on when the graining happened. It was because he started on mediums, didn't he? And I think it was when he put the hards on. I think he pushed too hard on the hards at the start, and then that grained up nicely. So yeah, look, but also Pierre did have battery issues as well, which is a good point, Katie, to bring up. But yeah, the graining was a big part of him losing the pace that he did, which was a shame. This was again this weekend for Alpine was just mad. Ocon starting at the back, Pierre starting at the front. Swap positions. You got to give credit where it's due to Alpine and Ocon for coming through and doing the job they did. Quick one on the Ocon Verstappen. Now, I didn't watch qualifying live because I was sleeping. But obviously, I've seen post all of the stuff with Ocon Verstappen. Did Max deserve a penalty for impeding Ocon in qualifying? Simple yes or no. Simple yes or no. And yes, the Alpine Palace drop was pretty decent. It all sold out immediately. And now, in fact, should we have a little look on StockX? Because I was actually looking last night. Because I would like to get at least one of the bits, the StockX Palace bits, but the Alpine Palace bits. But the prices are still pretty mad at the minute. So I think I'm going to hold fire for now. But hopefully the prices will come down once the Vegas hype pitters away from us. Right. Did Max deserve a penalty? Oh, you lot are split. 44% saying yes, 56% of you are saying no, 211 of you voting. I'll let that carry on. Right, let me get screen share up. And let's all you're seeing is a white screen. Now you see me in the corner. Hello. And now if I do window capture and StockX, bosh, here we go. So the Alpine, let me get this nicely cropped. Wait, what? There we go. Get that nicely cropped for the purposes of the stream. So you've got the hoodies are at about 200 quid. Those big jackets are like 320 lowest ask on them. You've got these bits as well. I'm not so keen on these camo bits, to be honest. These are a bit much. But yeah, the t-shirts are nice. I like this blue one actually. This blue tee's nice. This blue tee's decent, but £135 the last sale for it. No, I'm sorry, that's just ridiculous. The pink hoodie would be very fitting on brand for me, but it's not really my pink. It's a bit too. It's BWT. It's their pink. So this is. I mean, this jacket is my favourite bit probably from the drop. The black tee's nice as well, but it's just a black tee with sponsors. I don't know. For the right price, I'd definitely get some of it, but I wouldn't chuck the chuck all me money at it, you know. Come on, behave. Morning. I don't know why the brown hoodie's getting love. Really? And the beige one, it's not great. Kind of sand hoodie in it. But yeah, the prices are a bit crazy. Anyway, right, back to the poll. Yeah, you lot are still split. 312 of you have now voted. 46% yes, 54 no. So the thing is, you've got that minimum lap time thing, haven't you? So if you're taking Ocon's side, you're like, well, he overtook Max because Max was holding people up and he needed to do his minimum lap time to then start his fastest lap. And then obviously Ocon got ahead by the start-finish line, and then Max just purposefully drove up the inside of him to stop to ruin Ocon's lap. Because to be like, there is no way, like, Max driving up the inside of Ocon was 100% an act of vengeance. Of course it was. Because it's not like Max seriously thinks, I can send it up the inside of Ocon and go as wide as he did and set my fastest. I mean, to be fair, he's in a Red Bull and he's like the quickest driver in F1 right now. So maybe he still thinks he can set the fastest time with, yeah. But yeah, I think that Max, that was an act of vengeance. The argument is, was it a fair act of vengeance? Because Ocon did overtake Max, while Max was ultimately trying to start his fast lap. It was very messy on all sides, and obviously I know that if I say Max did deserve a penalty, you'll be like, you're biased towards Ocon, rather than actually debating my point. But that's just what you have to. When you put your preferences out there, people will hold them against you for the rest of your life. You are though. But look, Tommo, Ocon better than Max. I mean, he is better than Max, isn't he? Surely, come on. That's common sentiment, isn't it? Thank you, Chinwag, by the way, for the $2. Move back to Vegas, auctioning drain cover at $2,000. Well, I hope now post F1 Vegas is a nicer place for you, Chinmay. I hope so. Is vengeance even fair? Look, these two have history. I get that Max is setting up in the way he wants to set up, and then Ocon overtakes him. So Max is trying to do his fast lap, and Ocon doesn't have the patience. But then if there is this minimum time, I don't know if that was a factor. Honestly, these two just need to have a boxing fight already. That's my opinion at the end of the day. And Alpine need to. Why were Alpine quick around here? Because they were slow in Monza. And this is the street race Monza. They both went out in Q1 at Monza. Maybe the Alpine power unit is actually better than we all think. Yeah, Max did literally say it was on purpose. No, yeah, that's what I mean. It was an act of vengeance. It was an act of vengeance. Max Verstappen. Yeah, I'd pay to watch that fight. Who would win that, actually? Yeah, who would win a... That's a more important poll. Who would win in a boxing fight? We're not talking UFC. We know... I swear, Ocon's always wearing one of them bloody UFC Venom hoodies. Who would win in a boxing fight? Obviously, you've got... Ocon's got the range, right? He's got the range. You can keep Max at a distance, right? But Max is he's a scrapper, isn't he? He's a scrapper. I think Max, like, you know, he's not giving up. And if he can get a bit close, I don't know. 64% of you are saying Verstappen, 36. You know, I think it'd be a closer fight than you. Yeah, Max got a chin on him, definitely, Seamus. I agree. I reckon Max has got a good chin on him. He could take a few. I just can't imagine, like, Ocon wouldn't. I think Max would potentially land like a knockout blow. You know, if you can get in close, like Ocon through and then under and then bit of an uppercut. Like, I think that could be. Yoss in the corner would get in the ring. That would be so good. A charity boxing match. Esteban Ocon versus Max Verstappen. I beg. Make it happen one day, please. Make it happen one day. You're 66% of you gone Verstappen. Well, there you go. Actually, you know what? The secret word of this podcast, this live stream, however, wherever you're consuming this, is the name of the driver you would think would win that boxing match. Verstappen or Ocon. Whichever one it is, that's the secret word. Okay? We'll see. A real fight for the champ. Exactly, Talia. A real fight. A real bare-knuckle brawl. Nah, boxing with mouthpieces, head guards, all that good stuff. Anyway, right. Alpine, kind of well done. Kind of, I don't know why you were quick this weekend. Because you're meant to have the worst engine. Anyway, Aston Martin. Yeah, so Stroll, good race. Fernando, bit of a stinker. Are we starting to see uncharacteristic Fernando Alonso mistakes creeping in? I'm just thinking. I feel like these last few, he's made a few. You know, was it in I've completely forgot the calendar. Was it Qatar when he went wide for like no real reason? I feel like Fernando, given the standards Fernando has set over his career and at the start of this year as well, he's made a few mistakes this second half of the season. Maybe it's just whatever, you know, going through the motions. I don't know. At the end of the day, he did clanger it at the start, did Fernando. But Stroll showed that car had good pace. Look, at the end of the day, if the McLarens delivered on their potential and if the Mercedes delivered on their potential, then almost certainly, well, Ocon and I think Gasly had good pace, but Ocon was starting coming from the back, wasn't he? So, yeah, you got to think with McLaren and Mercedes actually stepping up, you know, Stroll and Ocon wouldn't have finished as high as they did, probably. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think Aston Martin have gone through a lot of learnings and they're still in that conversation with McLaren. So we all wrote them off and actually they've somewhat understood what was going right, what was going wrong, and maybe that bodes well for next year. I mean, the momentum, I'm glad they've turned a bit of a corner before the end of the season because that gives me a bit more confidence about next year. And because we know how good Fernando is. And you know what, like, Chinwag, thank you again for the $2. They were desperate to make Max say Vegas was good. They were, weren't they? But you know what he did after the race? Anyway, he enjoyed the race. But he never had an issue with the race itself. It was more But we'll get into that when we get into to talk about Red Bull. Synchronized spin from Alonso and Sainz at turn 1. It was, wasn't it? And that had a good little scrap, actually, Alonso and Sainz. A little Spanish armada. It was a good little scrap. That was good fun, actually. No, I want to talk specifically about Stroll, actually, because Stroll's Stroll has everything on paper in terms of he's been in the sport. It's his 7th year in the sport. He's still only 24, I think, which is crazy. He's like the same age as Lando. You think how much longer he's been in the sport than Lando. You know, he's got these podiums that Hülkenberg never managed, and he's got multiple podiums. And last year, relative to Seb, at least quali pace, he was pretty close. Like, there's lots of things that Stroll should be further ahead, better than he is. But I think he's such a confidence driver. And, you know, we've seen his little outbursts, and obviously with his trainer earlier this year was a bit of a crescendo, right? And I feel like in all of his interviews now, whether he's had a good race or bad race, more so than in the past, he's like super blunt and concise. But also, maybe that's an effort of him to almost like change his approach. I don't know. Look, I think we know why Stroll got here in the first place, but I think it's a bit lazy to just write off Stroll as, oh, he's only here now in 2023 as a paid driver, because he can deliver performances like this one, like last weekend. Yes, quali wasn't great, and his 1 lap pace needs to improve for sure, but he can pull a race out. You know, Bahrain, opening race of the season, made some good moves as well. And it's like, Stroll has these stinkers, and more often than not, it's a poor performance from Lance. But then he will occasionally bring out a somewhat decent performance and maybe even get on a podium. And then it's like, well, he didn't just do that through blind luck. Like, there's clearly talent there. There's clearly ability there. But it's not consistent enough, you know? These performances can't be one-offs for the rest of his career if he wants to shake the only here because of daddy's cash allegations. And he probably never will. But, you know, when Checo was, especially in 2020, when he was killing it in that Racing Point, no one was calling Checo a paid driver, even though his sponsors are a huge component as to why he got the opportunity in F1 in the first place. But then he backed it up with ability. You know, Lando's dad is a multi-millionaire and supported his career. Now, that's a pay driver in a different way. That's not the conventional sponsor pay driver. And ultimately, look, most of these drivers are born of privilege, and, you know, parents, the amount of surname merchants you get in this sport, right? Be that Rosberg, be that Verstappen, whoever, Schumacher, etc., etc. So, you know, there's more to prove people wrong. There's more to prove. There's more of a chip on your shoulder there. But he's not. These performances are great, but they're too isolated. They need to be more. They need to be more, Lance. Because, look, at the end of the day, like, you got to give credit where it's due. Is a great drive from Lance. 2 great drives in a row, but they're just not consistent enough. If he can drive with more confidence, and I get it, like, Fernando's come into this team, and in qualifying, it's not even been close. And that's going to get in your head. Of course it is, right? Yes, he's the son of a multi-billionaire. He's also a human being. And he's a sports person who's capable of delivering way better F1 drives than any of us could. So, please sit down. I don't want sit-down democracy, all right? In a democracy, I vote to stand, because I like standing. So yeah, I think that Stroll still has a lot to prove, but he just make performance like this more consistent, and he could turn some people around, you know. He could turn some people around. Yeah, Zach, it's a flippant comment. I wasn't actually being serious. Come on. He's obviously better than any of us. That's not the point. Also, I'm sure that take any F4 driver would be a lot better than any of us in an F1 car. Anyway, Aston dumb, Bosch, Ferrari. Let's talk about Ferrari. Is there anything I haven't really said? Again, the Monza upgrade which Ferrari really did go all out to make that car quick for Monza, particularly. Also paid dividends here, and this was a more complete performance than Monza, for sure, in terms of that car race pace wise. And was it a win lost? Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think, timing of safety car definitely inhibited Ferrari's win potential here. I think without that safety car, almost certainly Charles Leclerc wins this race. And he did everything he needed to do. And look, it's a good sign for Ferrari. But at the same time, we know that next year they are going back to the drawing board with their car in a similar way to Mercedes. I just hope they build something that they actually understand out the gates, because too often both Mercedes and Ferrari have not understood the performance of their car. You lot predicted Ferrari to have a banging weekend, and that's exactly what they did. So well done you. And look, the evidence was there. The writing was on the wall somewhat, looking at the characteristics of Vegas versus a track like Monza. You know what? A good day for Ferrari, given the context of, Carlos recovered to P6 in the end, which you think it could have been more, maybe? Could it have been more from Carlos? Did he leave a bit on the table in the race? Maybe. With the safety car timings, it's hard to really, because that affects some more than others. And Fred wasn't having it in the press conference, which rightly so. Look, he was entitled to be annoyed. Ultimately, they did nothing wrong, and the FIA's incorrect preparation of the track destroyed one of his cars and got him a 10-place grid drop. So that's a lot of damage. And the invoice should be on Stefano's desk yesterday morning. Okay? For sure. No, Spartacus, I definitely didn't do that. That never happened. Not much more to say, really. Battle for. Oh, actually, one more thing. Start a little poll. Who's going to win the battle for P2? Who's going to win the battle for P2 in the constructors? Of course, is it going to be Mercedes? And I've ignore how I've spelt these options because I just. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying. Yes, I wrote Mercedes and Ferrari with a little M. Mercedes. That's fine. That'll do. Okay. Got my clickety-click keyboard. My Keychron. Look at this. Right. Sorry, audio-only listeners, but can you see the lights? Oh, yeah, there's the lights. Ooh. Yeah. And I've got a light-up laptop now because I've got my Lenovo Legion 7. And that lights up like a Christmas tree as well. Although I quite like to turn the LEDs off. I don't know how to. I need to look at that. Mercedes. Who's going to win the battle for P2? Is it Mercedes or Ferrari? Oh, got the same keyboard, Halita. Nice. No pink key. No, I don't. That would be cool to get like a custom grey and pink keyboard, but it would look the pink keys would look quite dirty. I think I'll probably get grey keys and then a pink surround, actually, because it's the keys that pick up all the finger grease. Nice. Anyway, battle for P2, 33% of you are saying Mercedes and 67% of you are saying Ferrari. Well, there you go. 4 points in it. We'll see in Abu Dhabi. I think Mercedes. I think Mercedes will still get it. I think they'll be better than Ferrari, more complete than Ferrari around Abu Dhabi, in my opinion. But what do I know? I predicted Lando to win this race, and Max to have a clanger, and he won. So I don't know why you're coming to me for insight, to be honest. Thank you, Chinwag, again. Very generous, mate. Appreciate it. Ferrari should invite Massey as a guest to rub it. Was it last year he turned up to Abu Dhabi, wasn't it? It was. Was it Abu Dhabi? Or was it Australia he turned up to? It was Australia. No, he couldn't go to Abu Dhabi again. I think it was Australia he turned up to last year. Anyway. Haas. So Hulkenberg kind of has to hold that. He's kind of got to hold that L a bit because he's running the old spec car and was nowhere in quali. And Magnussen's running the new spec and got to Q3. Look, Hulkenberg's been clear of Magnussen most of the season, but Kevin's got this odd occasion where he can get it into Q3 when Hulkenberg can't. And Haas just seem all lost at sea, man, honestly. They just don't seem to have a direction. They've got two very experienced drivers running two different specs of the car, and they're both just terrible. It's not good. It's not good, Haas. I've got very little positive to say about this team, unfortunately. I'd love to. You know, small little plucky team. They rose from the ashes of Marussia. Had a great start to their F1 journey in 2016. Was it Grosjean got points in their first race or wherever it was? And but yeah, it's just been a sea of disappointment for the young Haas team. And I think they need. I think for Haas to achieve anything in this sport as a privateer. Look, you could say that about. I mean, McLaren. They're an automotive manufacturer at the end of the day. Yes, they run Mercedes engines, but you know they are a big automotive manufacturer. And yes, Clorox, you're very right. Hit like, hit sub, slap the bell, do it all. Listen to Clorox, all right? Bleach is not good for you. It's good for your toilet. Bleach is only good for your toilet. Thank you, Clorox. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think aligning with a big manufacturer, obviously Haas aligning with GM would have been cool. And if the Andretti deal doesn't go through, which it looks like it probably will, and I think it should. Well, no, it definitely should. I think it will. But if it doesn't, then a little Cadillac Haas entry could be pretty decent. Andretti buy out Haas, you know what I mean? You know, Gene's. Look, at the end of the day, Gene, he made the right decision to hold on to this asset because this asset is worth a lot more than it was when he purchased the old Marussia bits and bobs to put this team together in 2016. So, Haas need better strategies. I don't think even the best strategy in the world can make up for their not so good car, in my opinion. But there you go. Haas, Hulkenberg, hold that. McLaren, again, missed opportunity. Both quick, but Lando put it in the wall. Oscar was having a good race. Oscar made some really good overtakes, actually. It was quite exciting to watch Oscar make his way through the field. And, yeah, he's not had the best luck as of late, I think. I feel like Oscar's, you know, there's always been something in these last few races. Mostly outside of his deciding, you know, which is a bit of a shame, but he's still showing he's got the minerals. He's got the minerals, the lad, for sure. Yeah, a bit of a sleeper race. Good way of putting it. Good way of putting it. But yeah, move on, McLaren. Try and hold on to that constructors' position ahead of Aston Martin. Won't be easy because Aston, they've got a bit, but McLaren have the quicker car still. McLaren should definitely finish ahead of Aston. I think they have a quicker car than Aston right now. He did have a lot of televised overtakes. Untelevised overtakes, sorry. No, you're right. You're right, Clorox. You're right. No. I'm not going to do that, Seamus. That would be very dangerous to my health. What's your Subway order in Tesco meal deal? I'll answer that instead. Subway order is I haven't got Subway for a while. I would typically get like a meatball marinara with chipotle sauce and then all the veggies apart from gherkins, because gherkin just doesn't really work in that. But I'll get all the veggies otherwise. Jalapeno, chuck it all on. Meal deal, I get the feta and tomato pasta. I'm not vegetarian anymore, but I like that one. And then drink, I'll either get a San Pellegrino or a Green Machine. San Pellegrino lemon. Don't like the orange one so much. And then cheese and onion McQuiz. Bosh. Cheese and onion McQuiz. Every time. That's my that's my Subway, and that's my meal deal. Bosh. Yeah, not much more to say on McLaren. They go again. Mercedes. So Lewis and Piastri had their little coming together, didn't they? I've not actually seen any more onboards of that. That was chalked up as a racing incident, and they both, they both copped damage. They both copped punches. So maybe that's part of why. I feel like probably racing incident, but I've only seen the angle that they showed live on TV. I would like to see Oscar's onboard. I've not seen it. Is it? Let me see if I can quickly find it actually on Twitter. Piastri. I'll just type Piastri Hamilton to search and see if there's a onboard of Oscar. Because the thing is, I don't know how much more room Oscar had to the right of him. If he had no more room to the right of him at all, then it is more on Hamilton. I think he. Oh no, I'm literally just seeing it now. Oh, okay. Let me show this actually. Okay, let's go screen share. Again, audio only. I apologise. You won't be able to see this, but I've literally just found a little clip of the incident that hopefully won't get this struck. So I might just do this in like freeze frames. So that's the end of the... See, we've got Oscar's on board here. Let me just drag this out at the top. Try not... Leave me alone, FOM. Don't be mean to me. Hannah got this for me. Okay, Seamus. Check her hard drives. So this is Oscar's on board. If I just let this play, it'll be fine. Bonk. It's tight. Hang on, let's go back and just play this through. Play this through. Ooh, there's not much more Oscar could have done, but it's very marginal contact as well. Yeah, I think racing incident is probably fair. Oscar could have. There is a bit of room to Oscar's right, like at the point of contact here. Like he could have taken a bit of a wider line, but also, yeah, I think racing incident's fair. I think that's fair. Yeah, probably. Yeah, a bit more on Lewis. I'd agree with that, but not enough to merit a penalty, for sure. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, everyone! There's someone at the door. There's somebody at the door. This is a good time. This is a very good time for me to run a little ad. Actually, I'll do that now. Who's this? Who's this at the door? Who's this? Who's this at the door? It's Minton. Look, it's my sausage dog. Hello. Hello. Do you smell the coffee on my breath? Is that what you can smell? Here he is. He's just been sleeping in the... He's been sleeping in the bedroom and just decided to come through. Hey there, mate. Did you want to see all your fans? Did you want to see all your fans? Let me give you a... I'm just going to move this mic so you can get like full high resolution Minton. Look at him. No, stop. There you go. Look at that. Look at him. Look at the boy. Look at the boy. You're a good boy, aren't you? You're a good boy. Good boy. Right. You sit in the bed. Oh, there you go. Lovely. Right, I just realised it's 9:30. And I need to get this stream wrapped fairly rapidly. Fairly rapidly, but not too rapidly. Cool. Yeah, Mercedes, missed opportunity. Hamilton, qualifying back, obviously meant he got caught up in things, got hit by Sainz, and yeah, it's just kind of, there was a lot of pace there in Lewis's car in particular. But then, all right, cool, fine, it happened. All right, let's let George come through and pick up the pieces and get P4. But then he drives into the side of Verstappen. Didn't look, didn't expect him. But yeah, but I mean, that's not an excuse. And, you know, he copped the penalty. He said it was fair. And George missed an opportunity here, left points on the table through his own fault, nobody else's. Dropped down to P8 behind Hamilton, which, yeah, not good enough. Not good enough from George Russell. Decent race pace, not as good as... I think Lewis had a bit better race pace, to be fair. But either way, it's not good enough from George. Not good enough from George. Should have been more. Should have been more for Mercedes. Points on the table. I don't think Lewis did too much wrong, to be fair, though. Marek, thank you for the 100 CZK. Sorry, my nose has just gone really weird. Oh, that's weird. Ugh. I'm still a bit sick. Marek, thank you for the 100 ZK. I missed your Ferrari segment and wanted to ask one question. Did Ferrari lose Leclerc's victory by not pitting him under the SC? I mean, if they'd have pitted him under SC, maybe he could have won the race. But didn't Max have the extra set of hards? And Leclerc didn't have an extra set of hards, clean, fresh set of hards. And the hard was the best tyre, seemingly on the day. So, do I think he would have won by pitting? Probably not. I think it was just the safety car itself coming out at that time. It was just really bad timing. Leclerc had only pitted like 5 laps previous or something. So, I'm sure Max had he had an extra set, didn't he? I think he did. I think he had an extra set. So I don't necessarily think pitting under the SC would have saved the race for Charles necessarily. Maybe. I don't know. It was just the timing of it was just what stunk. That was the main thing. But yeah, either way, Mercedes missed opportunity. Russell must do better. Red Bull won the race, and Checo's drive was all right. I mean, the thing is, he got the safety cars were perfection for Checo. So, and you take those opportunities when they present themselves. He shouldn't have been qualifying where he did. He shouldn't be going out in Q2, especially around a track like this that you know does play to his strengths. But he capitalised. At the end of the day, Charles done him into the final corner. At least, surely you at least cover the inside. The thing is, right, because of the nature of that final kind of section, it's not like if you cover the inside, Charles can line up a massive cutback. You know, you park it on the apex and you just slow it right down. Because it's a street that when you actually get into that corner, it's very narrow. So I just feel like I feel like Checo at least defend the inside and give yourself a chance to, park it on the apex, slow Charles' momentum, and then take it to the line. I'm not a racing driver as much as I like to think I am. I actually went to Rye House this weekend as well. I went Rye House on Saturday, last lap Sunday, golf Sunday as well. Busy weekend, but good fun busy. And it was raining the whole time at Rye House, and I spun so many times. I'm so bad. I'm just I am Sebastian Vettel in 2020. But yeah, see the over and under. It would have been really difficult for Charles to put an over and under into that corner because there was no width to the track at that point. That's what I mean. I think if Checo defends the inside more aggressively and just parks it on the apex and tries to inhibit, when people try and put an over and under, but then they just really tighten the corner and that you kind of you stop behind them still. You can't carry that momentum. I think he could have done stuff. I think I think replay that, and I think Checo could have done things a bit differently and held on to that P2. That's all I'll say. That's all I will say. But great drive from Max once again. Did what he had to do in the end. With wing damage and a 5-second penalty, still won the race. So, happy days for him. And finally, Williams. All quali pace, no race pace. Fair play, Logan. I was waxing lyrical about Logan on the last lap. And then as soon as I started talking about him positively, that's when he started to lose all his positions. So that was fantastic. Look, being close to Alex is the main thing. He wasn't close by the end of the race. I think you're seeing a similar delta in terms of race management between Lando and Oscar that you are between Alex and Logan in terms of race management. Because Logan was close to Alex for a significant part of this race and then just fell away. His graining was worse or came quicker than Alex's. But ultimately, Alex fell out of the points as well. And that Williams just couldn't quite hold on to its tyres. So, there you go. Not much more to say on that. Pit Lane Pulse, thank you for the 200k yes verdicts on the Brawn documentary. DTS can learn one or two things. Yeah, so I've watched the whole Brawn doc now, all 4. Really good. Would recommend it. Would recommend it. It's a really good refresher into that season. I've forgotten a lot of the context around how, Button really struggled that second half as the batteries just died on this camera, which is fantastic timing. Just gonna switch you around. Don't mind me. Of course, that happens just as I go to full screen as well, right? I mean, that's literally meant to be. Anyway, right. I've got another battery where that came from. And yeah, it feels like it tells the story very honestly. My main reservation with the Brawn, look, it's a great story. Of course, it's a great story, right? Brawn saved the team, all them people's jobs, and to hold on like they did with minimal budget. They had a much smaller race team than the rest as well, which I think's a point that I'd kind of forgotten as well. They were running. They had to let go a lot of staff through the course of the season. They were running, well, I think that's half the team, didn't they? In terms of the total team employed. Instead of 800, it was like 400 or whatever. That's cut that back massively, which made them holding on even more impressive. But also, Honda developed this car. They put hundreds of millions into it, and they developed the double diffuser, and Williams and Toyota, I think, also had a double diffuser, and they smashed it at the gates, and they held on. But this wasn't a team that just came up out, and they didn't exist out of nothing. They already existed, but it would be like in 2026 with the new regulations, like Alfa Romeo suddenly being the quickest, but then Audi pulled the plug on the project before 2026, and then Fred Vasseur comes back and buys the team and calls it Vasseur GP, and they win the 2026 season, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, no, it was a really good doc. Would really recommend it. You can see Keanu Reeves has got a real genuine intrigue and interest, and that's really nice to see. Because too often we see, these celebrities, big names attached to F1 who don't really care about the racing, but he clearly does. He's clearly interested, and yeah, that was Hamilton's dominance made by Honda. I know, right? Kind of goes full circle, doesn't it? Bit of a Leicester City, But yeah, no, I would really recommend the doc. Give it a watch, and give this video a like or podcast a 5-star, or however you're consuming this. Thank you for joining me wherever you are in the world. I've got to shoot off pretty pronto now. So actually, the audio only, no, I should be able to get this uploaded before I need to go. But yeah, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for taking the time. We've got one more race to go. This weekend's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I'll see you on Thursday for the live stream. I'm also hoping to have a video out maybe Tuesday, probably Wednesday this week, all about a certain lanky British driver who is making far too many mistakes at the minute, and we need to go into a bit of a deep dive about him, I think. So yeah, thank you all for joining. Seamus, Charmander, Peter, Matt, Halita, BW, Kleiner, Xavier, everyone who gave super chats. You're far too generous to me, too kind. Thank you all, and I will see you next time. Ciao, adios, I'm done.